Welcome on into the show. My name is Deny Gallagher, and I'm joined by the snare campaign provocateur, my fellow stash brother. It's Benny Horowitz. What's up, dude?
What did you refer to that before he came out? A dirty Sanchez? Is that what you said? Oh boy. Off to a good start. Listen.
Well, you just destroyed my credibility.
How does your beard growth go? Like if it looks to me as if you couldn't connect if you wanted to.
Oh, wait, like here to here?
So you couldn't do like the Matt Damon Stillwater.
No, absolutely not.
You couldn't do the Punisher sticker goatee guy thing.
So it gets very interesting. I should have shaved before getting on YouTube in front of people. I did not. But if I cut the hair short, shave entirely, I could be 18 years old. How many almost 30-year-olds?
Look at the hair length. The hair length looks good.
I know.
It's looking long and lustrous.
I'm sure this is why people tune into the tune-up to check in on my grooming.
They listen to this on mute just to watch you, like me and what was that show? The Grind on MTV. Listen,
man.
All I'm gonna say is it was on at 3:00 when I got home from school and no one else was around. Okay, that's all I got to say about The Grind.
A lot of shows like that, they make your adolescence almost. They turn boys into men.
I know, and MTV's not even a thing anymore.
I know. They just shut down the news department like a few weeks ago.
All they do is play ridiculousness. I think some people got a little too married to the idea that cable bundles would last forever.
Yeah,
and MTV is part of the fallen. You know, they needed to switch. What are you gonna do?
We haven't even talked about this. The fact that Disney pretty soon is like ESPN's not even going to be on cable, that would be a groundbreaking movement forward. But that's a story for another day. How are you, Mr. Benny Horowitz, today?
Yo, living, trying to. Sometimes when the fire's in the sky, you get a different perspective on things, and I think in some ways, of course, don't take this out of context and say I enjoyed COVID, because I did not. But one of the things I enjoyed about COVID was the human beings understanding that any given day is not granted to you, and waking up to a fire in the sky makes, I think, a lot of people who don't often recognize their luck in the world, gratefulness just to wake up and stand every day, realizes, oh, I could wake up any day and never see the sun again. It's possible. So, even though I feel like I'm handing my children a broken earth and a broken society in a lot of ways, I do think there's always a silver lining, which is that,
Well, we're going to get into that in just a little bit, because this permacloud and whatever made a lot of news.
But is that its name? The permacloud?
Oh, I feel like, I don't know why I've heard that. And you know what, man? I'm just running with it today.
They name like every storm surge something real cool. We couldn't come up with something better than permacloud for this,
Well,
even hurricanes get their own names.
You know what segment I think has a very cool name?
What's that?
It's This Day in Music History.
Oh.
I feel like I got a half doot there today. Anyway, what do you got? This Day in Music History.
Permacloud. Come on. So
that'd be a good band name, though. Permacloud.
Maybe like a soft wave. What do they call it? Chill wave?
New age?
A chill wave band called Permacloud. That works. Something at the beginning of Portlandia. Okay. So on this day in 2017, Gene Simmons, essentially Monopoly man hidden inside of, the Guar's body, tries to file a trademark application for the devil horns hand gesture, which he claims he invented in 1974. The description in the application reads, hand gesture with the index and small fingers extended upward and the thumb extended perpendicular, which I believe is the shocker, not the devil horns. It's also the sign language symbol for I love you, So clearly not his. It's the hook 'em horn sign for University of Texas. It's the hang loose for Surfer. You know, it's been around.
Yeah.
But Simmons is filing for entertainment purposes, namely live performances. If this was granted, it would be possible musicians would have needed his permission before throwing the horns on stage. He says he invented it at a concert in 1974, seen using on the cover of the Kiss album Love Gun. John Lennon did it on the cover of Yellow Submarine. A band named Coven did it and their album art in 1969. And then obviously popularized by Ronnie James Dio. So this, you know, this is kind of like LeBron trying to trademark Taco Tuesday. Yeah, like wasn't yours, but you know, maybe he just thought like, oh, I'm going to be the first one who tries to claim it in court, even though I've never claimed it here. But another blaring example, and I've had anecdotal stories of this too, of Gene Simmons being the biggest money whore maybe the music industry has ever known.
The biggest.
Yeah, he's up there.
That's a big thing.
He's up there. He's up there. If he could sell the Kiss catalog for $500 million, you know he would.
All right. Well, Benny, on this day, I've got two. Fielder's choice. One is very us and closer to home. The other one's just kind of an interesting story. But anyway, on this day in 1972, Bruce Springsteen signs with Columbia Records and starts to assemble the E Street Band.
72. Long time ago. Goodness gracious.
What's that? 51 years today?
That's 50 years ago.
Goodness. And he's still with them. He's still with Columbia.
Look at that.
How about that? And the other one, now this one's just it's tragic, but it's fun. So bear with me here.
Go
All
on.
right. On this day in 1994, after an argument, TLC singer Left Eye set her boyfriend's Atlanta mansion worth $2 million on fire, burning it to the ground. She was charged with arson and only fined $10,000 with 5 years probation.
Yeah, this story was kind of widely mocked for a long time because it was two celebrities. It was, Andre Rison, who, you may not remember. He was, at the time this happened, Andre Rison's a top 5, top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. He's a big deal. I had his rookie cards in plastic sheaths. That means he was a big deal. I think the funny thing, the one thing that kind of made me laugh about this was the reason so she put all the tennis shoes. Were they all tennis shoes too? That seems a little silly. He had that many tennis shoes to fill a tub. Like the reason the whole house burnt down was because the tub was made of synthetic. It was like a weird plastic tub. I thought whatever palatial estate people lived in, I thought they had really good, hard claw foot tubs, that you could burn anything in and it would sit for ages. But the reason it caught to the whole frame of the house was because the tub itself melted and disintegrated and then went to the rest of the house. But only $10,000 and 5 years probation for I don't know, arson.
Yeah,
it seems like seems soft now in hindsight. But I joked about this a lot. Like I think I even used to tell ex-girlfriends, like, "Oh shit, don't light my shoes on fire." Like this was a thing for a long time in the narrative.
$10,000. What's that today? Like 25 grand? 1994, like
1994. It's $150,000.
It is $2 million.
Yeah, it's $2 million. Right. With this inflation, Benny, I don't know.
The first episode of this season of Always Sunny tackled inflation, and as per usual, those guys nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, a thing of tin foil costs about $42 right now, so God knows how much you'd pay for lighting somebody's house on fire.
It seems like a very, the only other people that get off that easy are people that storm the Capitol.
No!
Oh, all right, let's move on. Let's move on to the climate, shall we?
Oh, fun.
All right, so let's talk Gov Ball 2003, set to be this weekend. Benny, it's a festival that you played before.
Oh, yeah.
But they're monitoring the air quality in New York City. If you follow either of us on Instagram, we were just posting pictures of the sky, which we are not weather people. We're not people that tend to dabble in that. But the sky in New York City this week turned orange after Canadian wildfires. The smoke from that set down to New York City and the rest of the East Coast, making the sky orange, and it's smelling like smoke and fire. Really fun to be in. Scary, but also just like looking around, disorienting, really.
Yeah.
And just wondering what the heck is happening with the world. So on Wednesday, that happened on Wednesday. The air quality in New York City was the worst in any city in the world due to the smoke from the Eastern Canada wildfires, with wildfires predicted to become more commonplace with climate change. The alarming pollution, it's just everybody should be worried. But so seeing all this, the people from the Gov Ball Festival are like, let's wait and see. Sporting events, the Yankees and Gotham FC both canceled their games on Wednesday night. But you're about to send, I'd say probably like 25, like almost 250,000 people probably going to see Gov Ball this weekend. People 18 to 35 with good lungs, standing outside all day in air that is still not clean. At what point should a concert promoter feel a responsibility? And then from the artist perspective, how would you approach a situation like this if you were set to play in this situation?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, but in the context of Gov Ball, I mean, I feel like this is a little bit uncharted territory, especially in the States. I'm sure they have to deal with some version of this in some other places at times, but nobody knows what the fuck to do here. We're not accustomed to this. We've never seen it before. We don't know how dangerous it is. Everybody's kind of getting their head wrapped around it. And while there's, very specific protocol for, let's say, wind, because stages have been knocked down by wind before. You know what I mean? PA racks have been knocked down by wind. And then they know after a certain, speed of the wind, you have to put up the side sheets. After a certain speed after that, you have to cancel the show because the stage is at risk and the people are at risk. And they know that because stages have fallen from wind before. I don't think anybody quite understands how negative this is. What level should we not send people out there? Are you compromised? So, I think you see these reports. I mean, I was out today, feeling fairly comfortable because now my air IQ is in yellow and the yellow seems safe. And I think by the weekend, it's supposed to be even better. So I do think it's interesting for the future. But this particular time, I don't think you needed to cancel the show like a week before on the idea that, like the air quality is going to be bad. Apparently once it passes and you're semi back to normal. I don't think this is the last time it's happening. I think this is just a small taste of what's to come. But in this instance, I don't kill Gov Ball for keeping going on.
Yeah, it's a tough situation to be in. You don't want to lose all of that money making a speculative thing too early. I understand that, but if you're a concert attendee, man, I'm not sure if I'm trying to stand outside in that field. And what's that, Roosevelt Island all day?
I think. Well, this is the ironic part. I think they're out in Flushing now.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's out, in the and I believe that area of Flushing is now called Corona Park.
No.
So let's just throw it all together,
I love
it. And this forced me to look at the Gov Ball lineup.
Oh, okay.
And, I start at the top and I go, oh, Kendrick Lamar, Lizzo, great.
Yeah.
Then in the top 8, I see Lil Nas X, Lil Baby, and Lil Uzi Vert, who are within the same, they're billed next to each other, which I don't know if that's a joke. And then
Haim.
Oh,
come on. I'm correcting you on the, come on, bro.
Well, I don't know. I told you before this. I only know they're from the fucking Wes Anderson movie. And then I'm going down the list, and essentially all it's telling me of Gov Ball this year is, wow, this concert's not for me anymore.
Oh,
Because I couldn't tell you a thing about 10% of the artists playing besides for the top ones. I mean, it's a brave new world out there that I'm just not sure about.
a lot of TikTokers on the bill. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Can I talk to you about a couple things that came into my head while it seemingly the earth was on fire and we'd never see the sun again?
Yes, please.
One was this. I saw a post by National Geographic Instagram or something showing the haze, showing the concerns. And I couldn't find any information because the article is behind a paywall. And I'm like, fuck you. But one of the things I decided to take in for some reason was the comments. And so many of the comments are people from places that deal with wildfires being like, oh, so New York has some smoke now and it's such a big deal. When it happens to us, nobody even reports it. And or like, oh, New York's all afraid of smoke now. Like almost like it's fun. Like this is a fun thing. And I thought that was just a real microcosm of something that's just truly wrong with how we're seeing society and how we're treating each other right now. Like literally, yes, it's the first time it's happened and people in New York are afraid because we've never looked up in the sky before and only seen red. And, it smelled like a giant campfire. And you're like, okay, what the fuck is happening? And all these people who apparently have experience with it, instead of going on a comment board and being like, hey, these are the good steps to take for your house, for your kids, for your own welfare. We've dealt with this a lot. You haven't. It was more like a, thumb in your nose at something. And I thought that was just a real obvious microcosm of like what's wrong with people right now and the way we're seeing each other and how everything is some kind of competition of one-upsmanship when in essence we're all like tiny ants on a burning planet that could probably use each other a little bit, use each other's knowledge, use each other's help, because there's going to be a time when it just simply doesn't fucking matter where you are, who you are, the kind of resources you have. Like all of this is going to go better if people can somehow like work together and at least have some shred of empathy for people going through something that maybe you have gone through before. Like, who gives a shit? Maybe a kind word for the people who haven't gone through it before. Like, I thought that was real fucked up. Now, the other thing that it made me think of was, imagine through the history of time, right? Like 1,000 years ago, you're let's say just like you're a Mayan king down in South America somewhere, and this happens, and you don't know where it came from, you don't know why, you don't know it's Canadian wildfires, you don't have a radar showing you that the plume will eventually move over. You go, we have angered the gods. We'll never see the sun again. We must sacrifice 1,000 children or else we'll never see the sun again. And then they like sacrifice 1,000 kids and the next day it passes over and they're like, it worked. It worked. We appeased the gods. And then forever you have to sacrifice 1,000 kids every time it's like super cloudy out. So I was just thinking about the upsides we have with communication and technology and actually knowing, oh, this is a fire here, it's moving down, within a day or two it should pass, instead of like, I think about like Game of Thrones style, just some drunk king, 1,500 years ago waving a fucking chicken leg, just be like, oh god, we got to do this because this is so there is an upside to being in the future, which is that,
Two things there. Number one, on the people in the comments section, I actually have some optimism for you. I don't think those are real people. I think when push comes to shove and we need each other, I don't think that it's going to be like Zoe XYZ in the comments section. That's like, oh, I'm from California, bro. We get this all the time. No, that person's not real.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah. And then to your Mayans looking at the sky, boy, it's amazing in that amount of time, because then they'd probably do it every single year.
Oh
where they'd
yeah,
have to
it's become a
sacrifice
yearly thing. We need
We-
1,000 kids so
We've
the
gone
sky
from
doesn't come on
that
fire.
to
Yeah.
like selling barbecue sets half off. Like, it's just
Right,
crazy, like
right,
how we
right.
just process the world now. But
Yeah.
all right, well, the news just keeps on coming, Benny. The relations between Saudi Arabia, their Live Tour, and PGA Golf have been a thing that we've talked about a bunch on this podcast, and a real point of contention in the sports world for the better part of the last year.
Yeah.
We talked about the golfers that cashed in, got these big Saudi Arabian paydays to be part of Live Golf, and then we've talked about the Tiger Woodses who made a moral stance after 10 years of getting shit on for like his infidelity and stuff like that, takes a moral stance, and then he loses out on $1 billion. And then Rory McIlroy, who has since become the spokesperson for Saudi, for Live Golf and the PGA Tour merging, which is what we're getting into here. Just a really interesting thing. The two entities signed an agreement that would combine the PGA Tour and Live Golf's commercial business and rights into a new, yet to be named for-profit company, which is interesting because PGA Tour has always been a nonprofit, which you can talk about America there. The agreement includes the DP World Tour, which is the PGA European Tour. Live Golf says that the PGA Tour is going to make all of the decisions, but they're going to provide the money, and that the purses are going to go up for the golfers, which is great for the golfers. But man, you cannot begin to tell me that if somebody is providing the money for something, that they're not going to have the decisions.
Of course. And this is a huge story on, like, and me, I'm not sitting down often or ever and watching television golf. Not part, I'm not the demographic. I don't believe I've ever watched television golf. I know the big names in golf, essentially because of fucking Sports Center. So not a big fan, but I realize the implications of what this means for a pro league. I mean, first off, the way this got done was shocking, because usually there's a lot of chatter around something like this. And this was just like kind of a bombshell,
Well, because they were suing each other, and then they were
right.
like, nah, we're good.
And you couldn't really run this past a lot of people, because most of the people would have been like, no, you can't do that. So, there is part of it where the PGA did throw guys like Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods kind of under the bus. People who, I think Tiger Woods was offered literally $750 million to join the tour. Rory McIlroy has been outspoken all year about this, and out of nowhere they're just like, oh, fuck you guys, don't care, money. So that's the first part, where like there's a player element that obviously needs to be resolved, and then like, how do you resolve the Brooks Koepkas who are under contract already with Live Golf and paid X amount of money and promised X amount of money to the people who did not do it and are now coming in? Are they going to be compensated for this last year? There's a lot of stuff to work out there that doesn't make a lot of sense. But the one thing I think that's going to quell a lot of this outrage, especially from the players' side, which often trumps morality and God and all other talking points, is money. And all these fucking yokes are about to get paid. They're about to make, double, triple, blah, 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 the purses that they used to get, because of this injection of
cash,
money, that went into the, I'm in a legal thing, so I got injunctions on my mind. So that's a big part of it. But you brought up the biggest part. I mean, we literally just watched the PGA for like a year, put this whole organization through the mud to say like why they shouldn't have something like this. So the idea that an antitrust situation is going to come up is probably certainly going to be part of it. But then also, I mean, I don't have the reports in front of me, but I imagine most of the golf crowd is old white people. And I can't imagine old white people being too stoked on the idea that a sovereign nation with very opposing moralistic views often is now a major broker in a major sport. And as you said, even though they're like, oh, here's the reins, we're giving it to Pat Monahan or whatever, he's going to still make the decisions. Let me ask you this. Like, what happens when one of the top 10 golfers in the world comes out gay? I mean, they throw people in jail for that shit in that country. So you're going to tell me like the private fund of a country, this isn't some side corporation, this is literally a country's money, and they're going to be willing to be like, oh yeah, sure, we're going to give this guy $25 million too, and then deal with their own backlash at home for the totally archaic views of a lot of like Saudi Arabian morality and policy. So like, I think this is extremely murky water. And I think in the next like few months, you're going to see a lot of pushback, not really from the player side, because like I said, those boys are about to get paid and they don't give a shit. But I do think there's people in government and people in higher up positions that do have something to say and a vested interest in this not going through.
Well, one American League commissioner did have comments on this. Adam Silver of the NBA talked about it on the Dan Patrick Show.
They are investors in some of our largest American corporations. Some of the most well-known brands have investments from them. And I also think it's a two-edged sword. I hear the comments about sport washing. On the other hand, you're talking about it, others are talking about it. It's not as if some errant golfer can say one thing about his reaction to Saudi Arabia investing in golf, and that's left at that. I think people are pretty sophisticated. And the same way the World Cup, the football World Cup, soccer World Cup brought enormous attention to Qatar. I think people learn about these countries, learn about what's happening in the world in ways they otherwise wouldn't. So I think the media does its job. But at the end of the day, I also think, and now talking specifically about the NBA, where we're such a global sport, I think people are a little too dismissive these days about the benefits that come from the commonality around sports.
What unbelievably scary comments. And Saudi Arabia is going to be backing this team that LeBron's probably going to partner with in Las Vegas. Call me Denstradamus right there, because that's what he just confirmed right there.
Yeah.
No, but Adam Silver is a very smart guy, but he's also a very business and sense guy who's navigated these kind of challenges with relationships with a place like China. So a really interesting time for American sports right now, where they can be like, hey, we are for sale. Our culture as a society, one of arguably America's biggest exports, is for sale. And I think you're hearing business leaders like him. I know Saudi Arabia has they have a percentage in some of these studios in Hollywood. So America putting up a giant for sale sign right now. And that seems like a scary way to go forward if you care about the future.
I mean, but you're right. And that brings up a point I hadn't even thought about, was like, what kind of a hypocrite is Adam Silver if he blanketly, says this is a negative thing, and then of course the first reaction is going to be, oh, what about you in China?
Yeah,
every single time. So it's like, maybe it's not the concept that America is for sale now, but America has been for sale for a long time, and this is just the biggest sale that's happened.
Yeah. So that'll be an interesting situation to see going forward. You have to think that government bodies will get involved to try to block this. But they haven't blocked other investment from Saudi Arabia in American companies. So who knows?
And I'd even be a hypocrite to say I recently discovered that the Saudi Wealth Fund or whatever is an investor in fucking Live Nation. I just took their money, technically.
Yeah.
So it's like once you start peeling back the onion of this stuff, money is money, and money controls the world. And until we don't live in a capitalistic country, That's my take.
Okay, there we go. We'll clip that one for social media.
Yeah,
and
there you
get
go.
it right up.
Yeah.
Another interesting sports story this week: Lionel Messi. We talked about him during the World Cup. He brought
Speaking
Argentina
of
to
money.
glory. Speaking of a lot of money and a lot of global corporations right here, and a organization that manipulates valuations and tries to buy the way into global prestige. What's up, MLS? Lionel Messi on Wednesday announced that he intends to join Major League Soccer side Inter Miami as a free agent, parting ways with French champions Paris Saint-Germain and snubbing $1 billion offer from Saudi Arabia. Man, is this going to become the official Saudi Arabia anti-podcast? Because I don't know if my safety is here for that. All right, so Messi played his final game for PSG over the weekend and was linked to a return to also Barcelona, the club where he grew in prestige and won a lot, but they were not able to finish the deal over FIFA's or La Liga's financial fair play rules. So Messi is going to Inter Miami, the team that David Beckham owns, one of the last guys to get this kind of deal from Major League Soccer. He joins a list that also includes Pele going to the New York Cosmos to kind of throw in the kitchen sink to get this guy here. Here's the specifics of the deal that sees Messi go to Miami starting in July. He potentially gets a ownership stake in the club or a club after he retires. He will receive a cut of the revenue from Apple TV's MLS Season Pass, which broadcasts the league's games, and will be able to maximize his existing partnership with Adidas. How the league pass works and everything. MLS earns a flat fee of around $250 million per year from Apple, and after it reaches a certain threshold, they get a percentage. So Messi will also be getting a percentage. So that's how much they value getting this guy in the league, that they're willing to give away some of that sweet Apple money to get him here. Like I said, when we talk about deals like this, the Pele deal back in the day, he got a similar deal from Warner Brothers to come play for the New York Cosmos. But money now is different, and money now is way more global and you can do a lot more with it. So does Messi going to Miami, will it bring you up to Red Bull Arena to try to see them play with the kids? And would you even consider investing and purchasing MLS Season Pass just to see this guy play on American turf?
I won't go that far for myself, but I do think that this is a major coup for the MLS in a lot of ways. And it's, it goes back to a lot of the things we talked about even earlier today, which is just like, this is what garners people's interest. You know what I mean? Like, you can make the nicest uniforms, you can tout a love for the game, you can do all sorts of things to try to bring people in. But the biggest thing to bring people in is, this is like one of the biggest names in sports, if not like the biggest, like internationally, coming to your American soccer league. And it's a huge deal. And it's the type of deal where, like, someone like me who's sort of a fan, but a fan on the side a little bit, and I don't really follow the grind and the day to day, like, I'm going to want to know what's Messi putting up almost every single time he plays. It's going to bring me to the websites. It's going to get me a lot more interested. And I'm even like your more cursory fan than people who really are. Like, I think the only negative thing I can find from this is, the MLS becoming the out of their prime graveyard for football players. This is like, I think that the next logical step for the MLS has to be, how do we secure the best players in the world during their prime? How is that possible? And what are the steps to that? Those steps still seem pretty far away. So I love the fact that Messi's coming. I think it's interesting and cool. I think it adds, I don't know how much it adds football wise, but it obviously adds to the MLS in Miami. But it's also something, like you said, we've seen before. We saw Beckham at the end of his career. We saw Pele. We saw a bunch of different people signed to the MLS towards the end. And like, if this is going to be a competitive league with the Premier or the Bundesliga at any point, like you're going to have to start really locking down the greatest players in the world in their prime somehow. Maybe this is a step towards that, but
So there's two ways for MLS to try to get this way. Currently, they compete against themselves. Yes, there's like CONCACAF Champions League, but that's like the best club team in Mexico, America, the Caribbean, and Canada. So that's not really going to get people excited. They're not really too much into venturing down to play in some of these South American tournaments so that they can have the best clubs in all of the Americas. And what rather, they've been on this try to get the best players to come in that they can for a while now. That's had mediocre success. The only way that this league is going to break through, and I've been saying this for a very long time now, they have to find a way to compete with these European clubs. I mean, Americans only want to watch the best. Why would they watch and support MLS when they could turn on their TV and watch the Premier League, La Liga, like the teams that are historically winning the trophies, winning the competitions that have been deemed the best, like the UEFA Champions League, seeing the best players that they see, that get the marketing money. Those are never going to be the guys that win MLS Cup unless they do something about it.
yeah, no, that's right. And I don't think that's just an American thing, This is just like, what people decide to support and what they have access to, like the fact that the best basketball players in the world no longer seemingly go through the NCAA has taken my interest out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you gotta keep that funnel coming. Like that's part of the system and you have to reinvent it. And I think MLS is always at the precipice of doing something interesting there, but I'm curious what their next move is going to be. I mean, but like I said, you can't knock a move like this. You give the guy whatever the fuck he wants to come.
Yeah.
Because this is, on the scale of, LeBron James. This is on the scale of Ronaldo. This is one of the biggest athletes literally in the world deciding to come play in Miami. Like, cool. Yeah, I'm just curious what's going to happen from here.
Which that all sounds good until he has to play in like Columbus, Ohio on like a Wednesday night in August. And he's like, nah, bro, I'm good.
Yeah. He's like, seriously, the Red Roof? Yeah.
I'm used to staying at the Four Seasons.
Yeah. We're doing takeout Chipotle? What's going on? No, I know. Listen, I've been on tour in this country a lot. Someone's going to have to take a shit at a rest stop eventually, Like, you think Messi's first time browsing through a pilot station in the middle of Ohio in the night, and he's like, all right, fuck this, I'm going back to Saudi Arabia.
He's like, I know I didn't get out of Argentina to be in like wherever, Ohio on like a Wednesday. It's crazy.
I mean, it's fair. There is a lot of this country that is probably not up to snuff for a guy like Messi. Let's just say that.
That's true. All right, let's head to the NBA Finals, shall we?
He's gonna love Harrison, though.
He's
gonna love Harrison, New Jersey.
Harrison playing on a baseball field at Yankee Stadium, all of that. Oh my God, what a league!
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the NBA Finals now. Not only is hold on, we got. Oh man, I had this whole thing set up. All right. Game 3 the other night had Jokic making history yet again in the Nuggets 109-94 road victory against Miami Heat. Jokic became the first ever player to record a 30-20-10 stat line in the NBA Finals. But for the Joker, this was business as usual. And I think that's been the frustrating part about the dialogue during this NBA Finals is the fact that you have Joe Schmo down at Lifetime Fitness or wherever you play pickup basketball thinking that they are Nikola Jokic, and you could never be the combination of Bird, Magic, all while looking like a Kaiser sub out there going down the court. It's unbelievable the discourse about this guy is great, and people are just like, I could do that.
I do think there's some truth to that because he makes it look easy. He plays the game with a style where you're like, oh, that looks easy. It is not easy. But I've also heard many people this week going, okay, this is the greatest basketball player on the planet.
Yeah.
A lot of people have admitted it. And you know what? Some of it is fair, because until you're tested and challenged on the biggest stage against the best players, there's still a variable to how great you actually are, and if you are the greatest player in the world, you should be able to get over these humps and at least get yourself to a finals and make a good run in that finals. So win or lose, I think Jokic, just by being here and performing the way he is, has officially, it took too long, of course, because of the way he looks, where he plays, a number of things. I've never seen a literal NBA analyst going, "Oh, this is like the first time I've really watched him." I'm like,
Yeah.
guy won MVP twice. Yeah. Do you watch basketball? Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? So that's been a little silly, but also I do think there's some justification in the idea that, like, you had to get to this point. You had to get to a finals. You had to perform well up until that point in those finals to put yourself in the class of people that we feel Jokic belongs in. I think there's some fairness to that. And then I think the other argument is a little annoying, but partially true, which is the idea Jokic is going to Jokic. He's going to do his thing. What are you going to do about the rest of the team? Because that's how you might actually win. And there is a little proof in that pudding. Like if they manage to shut down Jamal Murray, that team looks a lot different, and it's that two-man game between Jokic and Murray that really makes the Nuggets tick. And I think that's the other name that really needs to be extolled in this process is Jamal Murray. This is like a fully healthy fucking superstar who's just an exceptional offensive player, really smart. He does everything. He rebounds, he hustles. You gotta love Jamal Murray, and I think that really was the X factor in a lot of ways,
Yeah, and I'm happy to see, because you have to get to the finals to get the respect. I think people thought that Giannis was great. He won MVPs, then he goes for 50 in the finals, and people are like, he's goated to them. He's just in like another conversation. That's what's happening to Jokic right now. But to your point, how have people not been wanting to watch Denver? I mean, it's since the bubble. I mean, like that was kind of their coming out party, and now this is their coronation.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating how much I had to listen to this year about the fucking Lakers clawing their way out of the 14 seed, or the Suns trades, or what are the Clippers going to do if these guys who are never healthy become healthy together, and all these like metaphorical things that everybody kept talking about when there was just this great team sitting there with the same fucking starting five the whole year, stayed healthy. They were in first place the whole year, just went through this. So I do think we're seeing sort of the downside to how we decide to play our narratives. You know what I mean? Like we could have just been enjoying this all year instead of, taking 3.5 hours to talk about how Rui Hachimura is going to help LeBron and be like, hey, you see what this awesome team is doing,
And if you want to hear that talk, you can go back to episode 1.
Yeah, I'm sure we did it. I'm sure we did it plenty. Yeah, I'm sure. We're part of the problem. I wasn't exactly talking nugs, too much 6 months ago. But I did say, I think, right when the playoffs started, when you watched a couple of these teams stumble out of the gate and you started getting worried about their health and stuff like that already, I was like, who benefits from this the most is the Nuggets. Mm-hmm. Because the Nuggets are doing what they've been doing the entire year. And the other teams that, everybody said might, challenge the Nuggets were figuring it out on the fly. The Suns and the Lakers and the Clippers and all these teams are just figuring it out on the fly because they don't have their things set. And this is the upside to keeping a team together, keeping stars together, building through the draft and giving them supplemental pieces to be successful,
Well, let's give Jokic his flowers real quick in terms of his what he's done this postseason at an all-time thing. Not only is he chasing a championship, but he's had one of the best postseasons we've ever seen. When you think of all-time postseasons, you think of Moses Malone in '83, Jordan '91, Hakeem '94, Dirk in '11, LeBron 16, Giannis 22, and Steph in 23. Obviously, before getting eliminated, but what we have here from Jokic this year, after having 11 triple doubles in the postseason, including 2 in the finals, he's averaging 34, 14, and 9 on 59% shooting against Miami. Are you ready to put him in that category with the guys that I just mentioned before?
Yeah, I think you have to. I mean, again, the big caveat is that the Nuggets walk away with a win.
Yeah.
A lot of this narrative, doesn't necessarily go to like Karl Malone, Charles Barkley land if he doesn't, because I mean, fuck, like numbers wise and impact wise, he might be even on a different level. But I think if they walk away with the win, then sure. I'm willing to put him right up there among it. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, man. Like, it's not like anything we've been watching is like a fluke. He makes it's not like we're seeing shooting percentages that we haven't seen before, moves we haven't seen before. I think the big thing that changed with Jokic over the years, and something I think a little under talked about in this series, is his conditioning. And watching this guy play 45 minutes a night, and Jamal Murray, who has had nagging injury troubles, playing 45 minutes a night. Like, that's the thing a lot of guys couldn't do at this stage of the playoffs. After fucking 2 months of the playoffs, this lumbering 280-pound guy is still ripping around the court. He's creating offense. He stands his ground on defense, and he's taken on this giant role, and it's really a credit to the shape he put himself in his conditioning, like just to stay out there at this point, like as much as we see with injuries and load management and this and that, or if he was only able to play 32 minutes a night or something like that, we might be looking at a very different series.
He's about to get LeBron in the water polo pool so that he can have this physique going.
Yeah,
forward.
all of a sudden, like, Kawhi Leonard's gonna buy a horse this offseason. It's like, does this work?
It's a tax write-off, Kawhi.
Yeah.
Can we talk more white guy basketball, please?
Oh, please.
Can we talk about Christian Brown, or as it's spelled,
yeah.
Braun?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
I know.
But yeah.
The Kansas rookie, he came out of from the Jayhawks. In Game 3, he was spectacular. 18 points, including some big second half buckets. Going into Game 4, we've seen guys have one-offs to this finals. Do you think he's kind of the cog that they need to really take this commanding 3-1 lead?
No, I don't think it's like him. I think it was him that game. And I do think the Nuggets need someone who's not the big two to make a splash on offense every game for them to be able to do what they do and keep things opened up. And, KCP and Porter have both kind of shit the bed the last couple games. And those are the people you were looking for those supplementary baskets and those, open threes and things like that. Porter gave a much better effort in Game 3, and I thought he made some good defensive plays and had some impactful rebounds and stuff. But on the offensive end, I mean, shit, like, not looking good right now, and he's losing the trust of his coach, getting taken down to 20 minutes, a game, I think, in the last game. And I think this is another upside to, like, Christian Braun's, he's not a superstar, but what he did was he played at Kansas. He was a starter on the 2022 championship team at Kansas. And, when you're a good team and you're drafting players in the 20s or the late teens, I think this is something you really got to look for, which is just somebody who's not afraid of the moment. Like, Christian Brown's a rookie, and he's out there making cuts and being impactful in plays where the stage doesn't seem too big for him and he doesn't seem afraid of it. And a lot of that, you're playing going through a college tournament at Kansas and winning a championship. Like, you've played in some big rooms. You've played in front of a lot of fucking people. You've played in high pressure situations, and he's ready for it. And I think that's a lot to do with him. So I'm not ready to dub him like the third player on the Nuggets here who's really going to step up. I mean, I think, you could just as easily see four points out of him in the next game, but somebody like this has to step up in every single game. And of course, like, Christian Braun's getting more love just because he's a white rookie,
because
he's a
his
white
jersey-
rookie and people fucking love it.
How many Christian Braun jerseys are you going to see at Riot Fest when you go there in Chicago? A lot. It's like
too many.
him and Caruso.
And Reeves. Christian Braun and Austin Reeves should start a reality show. It'd be a massive hit.
I love it. All right, well, let's keep the Game 4 look ahead going here. Let's focus on the Miami Heat now. They've been a team that has lived and died by the three. Last season, they were number 1 in the league in three-point shooting. This year, they were near the bottom, but then they've been back up again in the top of that. They come this postseason time. And what that really does is it takes a load off of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who have carried them to this point. So in Game 4, are you looking for those? Do you think those shots are going to fall for Miami? I mean, like, they have not stayed this quiet for this many consecutive games. And by they, I mean Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus. They haven't been this hit or miss thus far this postseason, but they also haven't played a defense like Denver yet.
Yeah, I mean, well, they made a good percentage of their threes the last game. They took a lot and made a lot, and it just wasn't enough. And, one thing I love about this series, and I hope it's something that's a little bit of like a cue card for future teams coming up. Nuggets hit 5 threes that last game, scored 109 points. With the best player on the team looking to pass first and being truly a Tim Duncan-esque low drama superstar who really just wants to win and doesn't care about stats. And we just saw another team die by this, which is Boston. Boston was clearly a team who, if they hit 42% of their three-pointers, are going to win most games. If they hit 36% of their three-pointers, are going to lose most games. I fucking hate that. And, the trend that's happened in the NBA of, people giving up wide open looks under the hoop to kick out to, for a mythological three-pointer has been bothering me for years. And I think there's a little proof in the pudding here that you need to take your two, you need to get inside, and you need to have various ways that how to score the ball based on the defense, based on the night, based on who's hot. And the Nuggets, I think, are giving people a little bit of a lesson in how to move forward here. And the Heat's reliance on the 3-point shot, particularly when you're relying on the names you just said, you're relying on Gabe Vincent and Max Strus and Duncan Robinson, not exactly household names, nerds like us know who they are. But I mean, how many DMPs did Duncan Robinson get this year? And now you expect him to just be the absolute hero of the playoffs. I mean, Caleb Martin looked like fucking Kawhi Leonard last series, and now he's like kind of non-existent. So I think the Miami are almost like proof in the pudding right now that you cannot be too reliant on this shit. Any given night, like, you can have as many wide open threes as if they're not falling, you got to switch to something else. All right. Or you're going to die with the three as well.
I can't believe that you just hit me with the Bob Ryan old sports talk radio take of, oh man, it was better when these games were in the 90s. Dude, if you can score.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they were better in the 90s. I'm not saying 90s basketball was more fun to watch than this.
Yeah.
But not everybody's fucking Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, okay? Like, and it changed. Like, they changed the league. The entire way people scheme changed for that. And it went too far. And it needs to be course corrected a little bit. I'm
No,
not
I know.
saying go back to feed the big man basketball. You know, the Patrick Ewing days were sure a little boring at times. And, you know, and I love the advent of the three. I like open offense.
Yeah.
I like all of that stuff. But you need a plan B. You need other players who can do other things. You need people who can cut, get to the hoop, give a little mid-range, and you got to spice it up. Or else you're going to live and die with it. That's the point I'm making. I'm not totally sitting on the cross here.
No, you're 100%. If someone's going to give you a bunny too, you got to take it. And that's been a cool thing to see this postseason. I mean, that's essentially how Jimmy Butler has scored all of these points is people just giving him the short to mid range. So, but if you are a team that thrives on 3-point shooting, and that is your easiest shot and the way that you can amass the most points, 100% do that. Denver's not built that way. Miami's not built that way.
Yeah.
All right. Last headline today here. And we got to talk about Ja Morant. A week-long tease. We actually paid off a week-long tease. Last week at the end, we were like, oh, let's talk Ja Morant. Kick it to next week. So the NBA is looking into whether Ja Morant was holding a gun in the Instagram live video that we talked about the other day. The Breakfast Club's Claudia Jordan, Breakfast Club, famous New York City radio show, reported Monday that Morant's contention with any sort of punishment is that the gun wasn't real, which is like you're missing the entire point. We have a gun crisis in this country as well, and you're complaining about whether it's a real gun. You have such a big platform. NBA players brag about their platforms. Use some responsibility here. Well, you know, we heard from Adam Silver before. We're going to hear from him one more time. He was on with Dan Patrick, and he talked about any potential Ja Morant suspension.
This is not about just discipline, and then we'll just cross our fingers and then hope there's not a third time. I recognize that he needs some assistance, you know, from the league office, his union, his team. He's no doubt he's a remarkable player, and I think he's a very engaging young man. It's one of the reasons he has this enormous following on social media. But it's a two-edged sword, and he has to own that and take responsibility for it. And my hope is that wherever we come out in terms of discipline, that there's an acceptance that we need to find ways to engage with each other going forward so he can change the trajectory he's now on, which is not a positive one.
David Stern would never.
Is it just me, or is both comments we heard did I hear Adam Silver go two-edged sword?
Yeah.
Who the fuck says that anyway?
Corporate speak. I love it.
Like, what is that? Like it's a double-edged sword. We all know it. Like, why are you mixing this up? Just because you're bald and smart? Stop it. Come on, you got to connect with the people here. This is why people like Ja Morant, not you.
Oh man,
you can just say double-edged sword. What do you do with this two-edge thing? It's crazy. That is like a borderline sociopathic, almost more than fucking showing your gun in your car. I'm not happy about that. But that being said, like, I mean, he's right that this is, you know, especially with the way, like, if Ja's just going to fight this by saying it's a fake gun, shit. I mean, that's an even more out of touch statement because it's defeats the, what are you talking about? Who cares? It doesn't matter. You just got in trouble for it not that long ago, went to some magical 6-day rehab clinic where you came out fine apparently, and then just did it again. Fake gun or real gun, you're on fucking Instagram live. How fucking stupid do you have to be? Like, you need to take actual responsibility this time. And that's where I fear like nothing's changing with this guy. Like, every time I hear Ja Morant speak about his own digressions, it sounds like somebody who feels sorry for themselves, and it sounds like somebody who's like looking for the out or the reason they're not wrong. And, you know, there's never going to be any kind of substantial change if that's the outlook. So I do think, you know, that's the tricky two-edged sword that he has to deal with now, is the fact that, like, you know, a punishment bigger than the crime is not necessarily for the crime right now, but it's almost for the lack of sense about what you're saying and how you imagine he's going to handle this in the future. I think if John Morant came out the next day and was like, "Oh my God, I'm so dumb. Sorry. Like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? I don't hang out with that dude anymore. I canceled fucking social media. I do nothing but hit the gym. Like, yo, hands are out. Do what you got to do to me. I'm a new man." Like, if he said that stuff, I think you're about to see a way less strict penalty than you're about to see. I think part of the reason you're about to see a very substantial punishment for this is the idea that nobody has any sliver that this is going to change.
This kind of reminds me how, like, back in school, like, you'd see the guy who was like, joking around, doing some stuff, and would get in trouble, would try to talk his way out with the principal that wanted to create the like, we're so concerned about creating a great environment that they miss some pretty serious shit goes down. Like a kid's getting bullied, there's some sort of violence, whatever.
Yeah.
And the leader does not want to be a leader, but they want to play it as diplomatically as is possible. And I for the life of me can't understand. I've heard reports that he's not even going to get a half game suspension. This is, I know we have talked a bunch about definitive moments in Adam Silver's tenure as NBA commissioner. You can't let the people that you're listen, he doesn't like rule over them, but he has to be the disciplinarian here, and he does not seem to want to do that. He cares more about making sure that Ja has a supportive environment, which Ja needs. I just don't think that in particular is Adam Silver's job. But if Adam Silver doesn't do it, nobody else is going to do it. I don't know. It's a very tough position for him to be in.
It's not his job. And what is he supposed to do to a point? Like he's an employee of the Grizzlies. What is Adam Silver supposed to send like one of his henchmen in a suit to just like tail John Morant, live at his house with him? Like, you can't, so that's where the absolute lack of personal responsibility has got to be terrifying for someone like this, because they can't police him. All they can do is discipline him after and then give him the best avenues for support. But there is only so much they can do,
So a Ja suspension looks like what next season? And will that lead to, because this guy doesn't appear seem to be affected by anybody messing with his money the way other people would be.
Yeah, I mean, he's got plenty of it. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I would be shocked at this point if it's not under like a 20-25 game suspension and potentially half the year.
Yeah.
Something major like that. Like that's what's coming. And I wonder more like what does the league look like because of that? I mean, up until a year ago, Memphis, with this main core they had, was looked as like one of the best teams in the Western Conference. And now you're going to be coming into next year with, no Dylan Brooks, no John Morant, and, a bunch of young players. They'll still be quite good.
Yeah.
You got Jaren Jackson. You still got Desmond Bane. You still got Steve Adams over there, a bunch of fun younger players. Like, Grizzlies are not in the worst shape, but I'm wondering if you might see a move, like a supplementary move by the Grizzlies to add something into that locker room. Our boy Chris Paul is about to be available.
Oh, wow.
Like does he want to go to Memphis and actually, compete for a championship and kind of, get on top of a younger player? I mean, from all reports, a lot of players can't wait for Chris Paul to stop talking after he leaves. So I'm not sure if it's like the best solution, but I think the Grizzlies are going to have to attempt to at least do something like that.
You put Dad in the Whoop That Trick locker room. Oh my gosh. NBA entertainment. This is what Adam Silver's sucking up. He's like, man, this is the best reality show we've ever made. Chris Paul, Memphis Grizzlies locker room. Run that on the NBA app for all time.
Yeah. All right. Before we go out.
Yes, sir.
Dame Lillard.
Yeah.
Give me your prediction. Stay or go?
Go.
Does he stay or does he go?
No. I think he's not going to be in Portland next year. And I think I think he's going to be wearing black and white somewhere.
You're thinking Brooklyn. You really are?
I really think this because you know
you
what?
thought this Spencer Dinwiddie, Cam Thomas trade package you threw at me?
No, because I think that there's going to be a third team involved.
Okay.
So,
well, I mean,
Portland,
the whole point for Portland to do this, right?
Yeah.
Is a complete reboot.
Yeah.
If you're getting rid of them. That means you don't care about winning next year. You don't re-sign Jeremy Grant. You trade Lillard. And you have what to move forward? You got Simmons, Shaedon Sharpe, whoever they draft third, if that doesn't get lost in the trade. Now, what gets added to that in a Nets deal that actually makes them better in the future? I mean, Cam Thomas is a marginal prospect because he can only do so much in the court. Dinwiddie, I think, has proven the fact that he's not a 35-minute a night starting point guard in the NBA. He's got to be coming off the bench. They don't have enough, draft capital anyway to make something like that. Like, Portland's going to need a very, very useful young player to make this deal for Lillard. And I don't think the Nets have it because they're not going to give up Bridges. I think that's the only person who makes this trade happen.
Do you give up Bridges if it's a 3-team deal with the Pelicans and you reunite Dame and CJ McCollum together?
I don't know, because then I think Dame is in a similar position he was just in Portland. Like, who would you rather play with? Would you rather play with a team with Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, Nurkic, Shaedon Sharpe, a bunch of interesting pieces, or now you're coming to a new team, to the Nets with fucking CJ McCollum and Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton and like, and you're in the East. Like, are they any better than Portland just was? Like, the only move Lillard should or could make here is one that puts him in a championship standing right off the bat. And I don't see any path with this Brooklyn thing that makes it make any sense to me.
So you're leaning more toward the Miami route. But how the heck does that even
I don't
work?
think
Because they don't have the assets.
No, and that's why, this is a lot like what we were seeing, last offseason with Durant, which was like, everyone's like, oh, he's got to go just because he lit the torch. And you start looking at the packages around, and I'm like, I don't think he's going.
Yeah,
because they don't have to trade him, and there's nothing more entertaining out there. So, for now, I mean, if you ask me my opinion, I think Lillard's staying put.
Unless you see a potential situation with Boston, but then they'd have to give up Jaylen Brown. And I don't exactly know how much more of an upgrade if you team Tatum and Lillard together. I don't think that gets you over the championship hump.
No, I mean, I mean, Boston's, sure, they could use a Dame. Like, who couldn't use Dame Lillard? Yeah. But at his price and at his age, it has to be really a sure thing. I do think Lillard and Tatum would be, an incredible fucking thing to watch. And every once in a while, it would change what's happening in Boston, which is the offense that's like, here, give it to Brown, here, give it to Tatum kind of offense they run. And it would create something better than that. But again, why exactly are they doing it? I'm not sure. Does it make them better? I'm not sure. So I think he's staying in Portland. You grab, a good player with that number 3 pick, and then just keep going at it, man.
Yeah. I don't know why Dame would not want to play with Scoot Henderson. That seems like a pretty cool thing to me. But, with the way Ishbia has been going in his first 100 days, I would not be surprised if he's like CP out, Dame in, boom, and I'm an NBA kingmaker without a championship.
I mean, it's possible. They would need to get rid of Ayton and Paul, I think, to make it happen money-wise.
Yeah.
Because, right now the Suns have 4 players expected to make $30 million next year. And I think Dame is scheduled to make like 55 or something next year. So you'd have to free up that space. But I mean, again, sure, hypothetically, but why does Portland again?
Yeah.
Like, do they want Chris Paul? Do they want DeAndre Ayton?
Yeah.
For their rebuild? Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think so. You know,
And on the Suns' perspective, that makes them even thinner than they were last year, and that's
yeah,
why
exactly.
they didn't get to the
now you have
championship.
a true big three with no one else on the
Yeah.
team. Literally no one else on the team.
So
So I don't know.
yeah.
I think Dame is starting next year drinking Stumptown coffee. That's what
A ringing endorsement. Well, plenty of ways to get in contact with the show. You can email us at the tuneuppodcast@gmail.com. 2 P's in there. Follow us on all the social platforms at the TuneUp HQ, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Subscribe on the YouTube. We got the videos coming out. Catch our live stream whenever we go live. Be sure to follow Benny on social media, on Instagram, at Benny Horowitz. I am at Deny Gallagher on Instagram. Ben, you got anything else?
you know, someone on tour actually said to me, "Oh, Benny, I miss you on Twitter." First time it's happened. First time it's happened in a year. But not going back. Not going back. Everybody love everybody. Take care of each other out there. It's a brutal world. We need each other, okay?
Avoid the permacloud. The show is ended. Go in peace. You have been listening to and watching The Tune Up.